Public meeting to order. Well, questions from the public will be answered at the end of the meeting. I don't know why that was included. Questions will be addressed. They can be made by email. So that's a moot point. Adoption of the agenda. We do have the additional thing, and that deals with the bylaw 282, dealing primarily with a truck. The other aspect, number B, that is the committee of the whole in camera meetings, and the motion we made. This will probably have to go back in the camera because we have a third party involved now, and that was done in confidence. So please bear with me on this one. So to go back up to the top, we have the approval of the minutes, 3 reports, and your other business. Correspondence currently none. So,
I move to adopt the agenda.
Okay, second,
I'll second that motion.
vote, okay.
In favor, Ian? Ian, are you in
You
favor?
can't vote.
Oh, shucks. Sorry, Ian.
In favor, sorry, I was on mute, so it's not.
Yeah, but
Okay,
we have no protocol to allow for voting by telecommunication. This is a problem, so. But we want it being included, so we're rolling with it. Okay,
Pass.
okay. Approval of minutes. We've all had a chance to review them. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Motion to approve minutes.
I second it.
Vote. Okay.
carried, Ian.
Reports. We have the CAO's report. We've had a chance to read it. Is there a motion?
A motion to accept his report.
A motion to accept the report to the CAO.
He has made some suggestions or issues for us to discuss. Approving his report does not mean we necessarily are saying yes to those items, because otherwise I would not be comfortable in approving like, I can approve the report, but as long as by doing so, we're not automatically following through on his 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
All I really want to do is the fact is that we've had the report, we've read it. If we disagree with the item on there, that's not a problem. It's a report.
Right, but
It's
I
not
have
good. Okay.
there's some important recommendations or suggestions that he's made for us to discuss, and I agree, we need to discuss them. So when will that discussion happen?
This is a problem. I don't know.
Well, it should happen right now. We can approve his report as is, and,
Okay, I'm in an unusual situation, but if we approve the report as we've read, if you want to bring something up, I have no problem with that. Let's keep it concise, and is it something we can make a decision on? It's not.
it is, it's the items on his last page. which
Okay, let's
is-
start at the beginning in terms of, are we gonna accept his report
Sure.
as read?
Yeah,
Okay,
I move to accept his report as read.
I'll second that motion.
okay.
In favor?
I'll just go through the 3 reports first, and then we'll
Sure.
go back.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, that's
Fire
fine.
chief's report as read.
Yeah, I move to accept.
Second,
I'll second that motion.
vote. Public Works report. Motion. Second, vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to CAO's report, and what item are you addressing on this one?
The whole bullets, the 4 bullets that
The 4 bullets.
on the last page of the CAO's board report.
Okay,
And
Okay.
he says the following upcoming issues are being considered, and those are all issues that are warranting a conversation by the board.
Point of order, Chair, we got a meeting on these, and these are actually directives that we gave to the
This
city.
directive we gave to the
We
chair.
cannot
or-
postpone the AGM and the election, we're not legally
We-
allowed to. We have
We've
to have
already had
direction.
legal review on that.
No, we can't. What legal review did we have on that?
Not the legal review, this is a recommendation so far from the ministry to postpone. We're not canceling it, we're postponing it for health reasons.
You said, you
Substance
just said that there was no
Okay, not, I
communication with
don't
the
know who's a
ministry.
lawyer, who's not a lawyer.
No. I need to know where this directive came from,
From the
because
board.
no. We cannot postpone the AGM and the election. We cannot. We are legislatively bound to do so by April 30th. We need a ministry directive from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Selena Robinson, usually it's Tara Faganello, or Brent Mueller. They would be the ones directing us to postpone. We cannot do that.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We had an emergency meeting about these items. We discussed them. These items are not on the agenda. I do not want these items included in the agenda. So if these items are to be added to the agenda, we should discuss that and have a vote on whether it can be added or not. Either that, if it's not on the agenda, we don't discuss it.
Okay,
Excuse me.
No.
No, excuse me. I'm making a point of order here. We were in trouble with the ministry last year for postponing the election. We are legally bound by the letters patent to hold the AGM and the election on or before April 30th. We spent a fortune of taxpayers' money getting over the mess that was created last year by changing the election. If we have received a written directive from the Minister of Municipal Affairs to postpone the election, that's one thing. So far, and if we have, as a trustee, we should have all been sent that. That has not been sent out. Until I see that in writing, we cannot postpone the election. Full stop. That is a point of order. And I will be filing a formal complaint if we do. So do we have a letter from the minister? Okay, then we need that. We need that. As a board, we cannot do it. We got in huge trouble and we spent about $50,000. Excuse me,
Trustee
I'm
Calder,
still speaking on this matter.
you're going into a speech.
I'm
You've made
speaking
your
on a
point.
very serious matter of democracy, of postponing an AGM and an election, which we are duty-bound, legislatively bound to move forward on, irregardless of a COVID outbreak. There is a way to do elections in a safe medical manner. This is a directive that would need to come from the ministry. I will get up and I will leave this meeting because this is illegal what you're attempting to do. Unless we've received guidance from the ministry that that is okay to do, it is not okay.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
Can somebody else speak for me?
okay,
Peter Crawford's already addressed this.
He is,
Bear with me for a moment. Just allow me
well,
to
now
speak.
you're giving new information. What do you mean he's
I haven't had
already
a chance to
addressed
really
this?
say much. So
What
let
is the
me-
new information then?
Trustee Coulter, please allow me to speak. I have not
I'm not-
interrupted you.
Thank
You keep interjecting. I'm tired of it. We had an emergency board meeting. You were invited.
And
You
did
couldn't
not
make it.
attend.
Pardon?
She did not attend.
No, she couldn't make
And
it.
the items
So
were
be it.
listed on the agenda.
Okay, Rick, now you're interrupting me. So let me carry on here, please. We were faced with a pandemic. This is not a delay of an election or an AGM based on or circumstances like last year. This is a pandemic. The government in Ottawa has shut down. The Prime Minister is in isolation. They canceled the election, the provincial election in Saskatchewan. There's a certain number of precedents that are working here. This is beyond our control.
Absolutely, I disagree, and I want to see a letter from the ministry. That is a very reasonable request.
I
And that would actually be one to protect our own
Noted.
interest. Thank you.
Noted.
All right, so there will be no postponement until we get confirmation from the ministry. I will be filing a formal complaint.
May I speak?
Yes,
So, first off, we did have a board meeting that worked through this. And we came to a set of conclusions that I don't believe are fully represented in the last page of the CAO's report. So, we did agree to postpone the AGM based on the actions of the pandemic. So, I do believe there is some merit in getting some confirmation from the government of our approach.
Of course.
So, given that the board has passed that motion already, I don't think we can debate the motion, but we can debate, is there merit in seeking guidance further on that? With respect to the election, we have made no decision to postpone the election. What we have said is that we will continue to monitor the situation and we would be prepared to do that if it was indicated. So I believe this is only about the AGM. And guidance would be appreciated on this, like we can always backtrack.
It would be necessary.
But let's get the guidance, and if it's different than what the board has decided, then the board should reconsider. But the board decision has been taken.
I don't see the motion anywhere.
did you read, I sent it out to all trustees.
I do not see that the
information, what-
motion was approved on those comments. I did not see a motion
What
that was
county?
approved
What
to
county?
post. You said you had the cow meeting
No, we
that
had
I.
a board meeting, an emergency board meeting.
Okay, I haven't seen the motion where it was seconded and approved. All I'm going by is a
I sent it out by
recommendation.
email to all
Okay.
trustees and I forwarded it to.
Okay, so already there's confusion because now Ian has just said that it wasn't the election that you approved, that you made a motion to postpone, it was the AGM.
If
We are
you
not
read
allowed.
the email, you would.
I
have
did
full
read the
package.
email.
It's in there.
I
So
do
the
not,
CAO's report is not in alignment with
Thank you.
what the board's recommendations were, so perhaps that is the issue at hand here.
it is very much the issue.
And so that is with respect to the election. With respect to the AGM, we did agree to postpone. And so if there is merit in seeking guidance, I don't think we have to change our motion. What we have to do is revisit it in the event we get guidance that says we have proceeded in an untoward manner.
Yes, and based on last year's experience, going beyond April 30th for the AGM is not, it will be contested, it will be legally contested. So I really, it's in Union Bay's best interest to seek a directive from the ministry on that issue. And furthermore, there's no reason why the AGM cannot be done with audio in a safe manner, with the public being able to submit questions. Like there's ways to do it that protects the public health.
May I speak now? Okay, at our meeting, we discussed very thoroughly how this was going to evolve, and the AGM, there's several conditions that have to be met before the AGM is held. One condition is that the audit has to be completed. Right now, Hein just explained to us about the audit, and it might not be completed in time because of the conditions of too many people meeting at one time. They're trying to get through that. Also, we did not say that we were going to postpone the election. We said that we would depend on Peter Crawford's decision to postpone the election if necessary. If the election was postponed, we would not hold the AGM. So that was our rationale to saying we were postponing the AGM until the necessary conditions were met. So that's the decision we came up with, and that's what we voted on.
I concur, that's what
Okay.
happened.
So,
Mr. Chairman, again, during that session, we had two people that are running for the positions of our two trustees that are leaving. It's still open until the 7th of April. If only two go in this election and there is no other parties going, then it would be by acclamation and we would not have to have an election, and that would be great. We don't know that just yet.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I'm hoping that only two are going to go, and that would get rid of that problem. As far as the AGM is concerned, it's because of this pandemic thing and all the rest of it, we all know we want everyone to be safe. That's the most important thing. Yes, we can send a letter to the ministry and say, okay, this is the situation. What direction should we go on this AGM? Should it be postponed until a safe period of time? Or what? Because right now, even the MPs that went home aren't going back to Ottawa on a plane. It's only the locals around Ottawa that are going to attend in Parliament. They are not going back because of this pandemic. So we have to take it very seriously. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to bring up one more point in that regard. What happens if the auditor will not attend our meeting for safety reasons? What happens if other trustees go into self-isolation?
These are questions we don't know.
We don't know the answers, but I'm leaving it open, yes.
I'm waiting till you're finished, Dennis.
I'm done.
I agree with Ted that, of course, it would be wonderful. We have, is that what we have? Two people have put their name
Yes.
forward that we know of, and we have to wait till the end of the nominations, but I agree with Ted, it would be great. If those two names stand, then we have no need for election, that's one problem taken care of. The auditors, if the auditors cannot actually attend the meeting, they certainly can supply their report. So there's, again, lots of ways and questions can be done, and we should be submitting the audited information ahead of time so landowners can make informed questions. And if all can be done, the point of the AGM is to disseminate information to the landowners about what we've done with their money. And there's ways to do that that don't require people crowding in a room or putting themselves at health risk. So, you know, we need a direction though. We need a directive from, which you've all agreed, and thank you, from the ministry about postponing the AGM. And it sounds like that's what we're gonna do, so I'm all game for that. It is disturbing to me that the CAO's report is inaccurate. This kind of thing creates a lot of upset, unnecessary upset.
Okay, are we done with that one?
Yeah, let's get back on the
Let's get
agenda.
back on her here.
Okay, so where were we? Okay, you accept all three reports. You or other business. Okay, I've given you all an addition to the agenda, and that's a letter the court sent out, and that deals with bylaw 282. To put it in a nutshell, we've had more than our share of problems with the current truck. We've got a new employee coming on board, so we're gonna have one full-time and two part-times, or at least three positions. With one vehicle, that's been turning out to be problematic. At a previous motion was made to allocate $30,000 for buying another vehicle. At that time, the concept was to buy a small dump truck, a single axle, but when seeing that's not really what we need is another vehicle. So considering we've already allocated $30,000 to that fund, or to the cause, so to speak, what we're looking for is additional funds so we can actually purchase a new vehicle. It's also in the board package what it is. It's a Ford F-150 four-wheel drive pickup truck. It would be considered a fleet vehicle, Oxford white, bare bones interior, bare bones everything. The original price, someone backed out on the deal, was $51,000. They reduced the price to $41,000 plus applicable taxes, etc. So it comes out to $47,000. What they're looking for is I believe it's 50. So we're adding $20,000 to the package, what we already have. We currently have $937,000, $836 in our reserve fund, so it's not that we can't afford it. This would alleviate a lot of the problems we're currently having. So.
What are we using now in lieu of the dump truck?
We don't,
Oh, no, we have.
We never got it because the one we looked at was no good.
jump.
Okay.
Should I make a motion that we accept bylaw 282 so we can have a formal discussion on this?
Okay, second,
I'll second that.
vote,
No, let's
So
have a
we're
discussion.
ready?
pardon me?
Discussion regarding this
That's a
truck.
report vote.
Yeah, I'll take it, we gotta have a discussion.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
before we
just,
vote.
did I say vote?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
Thanks, Ian.
Seconder, so, okay, discussion.
Okay, so I made the motion, so I'll start. Unfortunately, in bylaw number 282, item 1, I think Gord just copied it over from bylaw 273. It actually says, purchase of a small dump truck, so that should be changed to, you know,
Pickup
like you
truck.
said, a Ford 150 4x4 fleet vehicle. My understanding of how we have to do this is we would have to rescind bylaw 273, which was for $30,000 for a used dump truck, which was not used.
Right.
So I think we would have to, after, if this motion, bylaw 282 passes, I believe we'll have to rescind bylaw 273 and make a motion for that. I think it's absolutely necessary, and I'm glad they're gonna get a brand new vehicle rather than trying to get something that's gonna be a lot of trouble, so
Under the warranty.
that ends my discussion.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree, with warranty. That's going to turn around and cover the powertrain of the new vehicle for a period of time. And, if anything goes wrong, we can go back to the dealer at their expense, not at ours. I agree with it.
I'll speak next to the subject. I fully agree with it also. The truck has been problematic for a long time, and employees have been using their own vehicles at times and get paid mileage. However, for some of the jobs that we require a truck for, it's unrealistic to ask somebody to use their own truck to dump tools, equipment, and take it out to the watershed. So I believe we need to do it. I'll go along with trustee Bitten there. Yes, bylaw 273, there's a copy of it in here, and that will be rescinded. At that point, we move that one out. So bylaw 282 would replace bylaw 273. So that would reflect the $50,000 versus topping it up.
Mr.
Not
Chairman.
bad. I haven't been.
Oh, Suzanne, go ahead.
What do we use specifically a dump truck for?
We're not buying a dump truck, we're buying a pickup truck. It was written in wrong, we've corrected it. Trustee Bitten's already addressed that. He just spoke on it.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject for a moment? Trustee Colger, this dump truck thing went back to the previous year, and the reason why they were saying it, because they were having to pay quite a bit of money to have a gravel truck keep bringing a yard of fill to fill in when they had to do jobs, which was very expensive, whereas if they had their own one-axle dump truck, they could go and get this material for the cost of the material rather than for all the trucking and all the other expenses. That's where it started from. They went out and they looked at a couple of trucks, but unfortunately these used trucks had problems that were way too expensive to repair, and they more or less shelved it. Now, this has come along to just get a pickup truck, basically, rather than a dump truck, because of the problems with the other truck that they have, and they only have one.
So this new truck would not be able to do what that dump truck was able to do?
No, it basically wouldn't, but it'd be able to do just about everything else. And yeah, it can probably even haul gravel if they don't have a toolbox in it.
Okay, so thank you. I needed that
Yeah.
information to understand
Yeah,
And what
exactly.
trustee Bitten said did not explain that at all, so thank you
No,
very much.
but anyhow, that's. what
Okay.
that was.
All right.
Okay, now we can vote. In favor?
I'd actually like to.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
I know I'm just this little tiny block on the table.
You look beautiful.
The question I have is around, given that there is a possibility that we join CBRD in 2021, how would this truck impact that? Like, would this truck be required beyond the period of 2020?
it would be
And is
considered an
there some
asset.
doubt in that question? Is there some merit in looking at a short-term lease or some other thing that would allow us a decision again next year?
May I respond? That's a good point. I actually looked into that question myself because I was wondering the same thing. I believe that it becomes an asset, that we are still responsible for our asset, we being Union Bay, and all monies that goes towards repairs or anything to do with water, which is what our jurisdiction is, still falls under your Union Bay and still needs to be paid for by Union Bay funds, so to speak. Like, but I see merit in the lease idea, given that we don't exactly know the answer to the point that you've raised, Ian, which is a very valid point. And it just buys us time and saves us kind of an outlay of money that we may not need to outlay. So I think that's a valid, worthwhile thing to look into.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'd like to interject at this point. This is a board meeting. A motion gets made. The person who made the motion speaks first. Everyone gets one chance to speak, and then the person who made the motion gets to close.
No, people continue to.
No,
Yes,
that's at
they
a
can.
committee meeting.
No, yes, they can. We don't just get one time to speak. Where does it say that? Especially on an issue.
Robert rule?
Ian is, no, show me where it says they only get one time to speak. What Ian is proposing is an amendment to the motion, which is entirely possible.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Monroe.
Yes. Yes, Ian, please, you want to address that?
My only opinion, Chair Vandenberg, is you are correct that we do get once around, motioner speaks twice, and then we can vote for or against the motion. I wonder if there's, upon mutual agreement, we can agree to allow one more round of speaking.
I have no problem with that, but I read the rules the same way. The reason we have committee of the whole meetings is for extended discussion. That's why we have committee meetings. Then you bring it forward to a board meeting, one round, and you vote. However, since it's become a contentious issue, I will add one more comment. Short-term leases generally tend to be considerably more expensive than long-term leases.
I would like to speak again,
Okay.
but apparently I can't, which seems bizarre.
Well,
If the motion as read, I will vote against it.
Okay.
Then if we disagree to allow one more round for every trustee.
Okay, so Suzanne's vote.
No, that was not my one round. Oh, so we're going around again, are we?
We'll go around once more.
Well, unless we amend the motion, I will vote to defeat the motion.
Okay, so Ian, your question about what happens to all assets of Union Bay will be transferred to a service area run by the regional district. So if we leased a vehicle, it would stay within the service area that all assets of UBID are going to stay in. So really for me, I mean, all we're doing is offsetting a problem that would have to be dealt with when the regional district took over. If you look at this line item on this truck, we're getting 20% off of it. The thing is, there's an immediate need for a second vehicle with the third person in the water treatment plant. So my way of thinking, this is a long-term decision we're making, because even if the regional district does take over, this remains a service area, and we need to have good responsive vehicles in the service area. So that's my take on it.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Trustee Bidden that we do have to have a vehicle that we can depend on, and regardless of whether the improvement district carries on as an improvement district or in the future the regional district takes it over, it means we have a vehicle that is going to be able to look after our needs here in Union Bay.
Okay, I'll reiterate the same thing. Long-term leases are considerably cheaper than short-term leases. Product availability for short-term leases, they'd have to probably order in a truck. To buy or to obtain a bare bones fleet-style truck nowadays, you pretty much have to order it. This one was ordered for $51,000, and the party that ordered it bailed. That's why there is one available. So I would consider that a considerable savings of money, and considering the fact that we need a truck now, not in the future, I'm in favor of purchasing. Trustee Coulter?
We were only going around once.
Okay, let's vote then.
We said twice. We agreed to do it twice for you.
That's it.
Okay, vote.
Sorry, I'd like my second vote.
Okay?
Okay.
I hear everybody, and I understand that this truck's required, and I wouldn't want to deny the additional water tech, the tools by which to do her job. What I'm wondering about, though, is that as we introduce assets into Union Bay, they become costs of the service area moving forward. And I'm concerned that if we were to convert to CBRD, if that would turn out to be an inefficient decision where CBRD, they consolidate employees and do different things and have vehicles already, that would make this an expenditure of money for the truck, for the landowners that was in part unnecessary. Like, it's necessary now, but is there some way of mitigating the cost and being more flexible with respect to what might be the decision of the landowners with respect to conversion?
Okay. If no one else wishes to speak, I suggest you vote. Those in favor? Motion carries.
I'd like to register that I'm against it without the additional research.
Yeah, I voted opposed as well, and I'd like my vote recorded.
Okay, our next item, B, will have to be done in camera.
No,
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
We should rescind, I will make a motion.
Oh, yes,
If
rescind.
we rescind
Hey,
bylaw, it's okay.
yeah.
I make a motion, we rescind bylaw 273.
Mhm.
Wait a second.
Vote.
There's actually, it's within bylaw 282, rescinding of bylaw 273, so it's unnecessary.
Oh, is that right, Ian? Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I see that.
One's in this bylaw 282.
Okay,
We do,
alright, okay, so
Okay.
cancel that motion.
Okay, motion canceled. Okay, new motion.
Don't need one, it's in the.
It's all
new
motion.
motion.
No, but for bylaw 282.
No, it's,
No, we, all, we've done a motion for 282?
Yeah, yeah,
It's all done.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry, you got me confused between the two bylaws there.
It says in changing one to the other.
Okay. That brings us to item B, under other business, and this will have to be done in camera.
Why?
Because the information that is being brought forward on the subject was done in confidence. If you read your email, it was marked in confidence. I had permission to utilize it. Bear with me.
I'm stunned. Okay, go ahead. I'm trying
Not
to
very good,
understand.
The original motion to deal with the minutes was done in camera. Further information has come forward dealing with this matter. This was done in confidential manner between a consultant. In order to carry on with this and discuss this item, we would need approval from a consultant to bring forward his message to public. We can do this after the fact.
The motion, the items that were brought forward by the consultant are actually the FIPA law. He's just reiterating what the FIPA legislation actually is. There's nothing confidential in what he stated. There's no surprises at all in what he stated. So, I did read it thoroughly, the email. So, we can make the motion to approve, and it should, there's a piece that's been dropped off the motion, which is the original motion, which was my motion, and this is a FIPA request. I'm making a FIPA request, and there's several outstanding Freedom of Information requests from several landowners over the same time period, exactly the same. So we can't ignore it. We can't not fulfill a Freedom of Information request. We do have to go follow the Freedom of Information legislation, which is what the consultant recommended. So there's no reason why we cannot pass the motion, because we cannot, as I said, ignore a Freedom of Information request to proceed on it in accordance with the FIPA legislation, because they lay out.
The discussion
Well,
at this point is.
hold on.
The discussion is about in camera or not in camera, not about the motion. So let's deal with that before we start having presentations on the motion.
I don't understand your point, sorry.
The motion was made to go in camera on this particular topic. That's the motion I'm making.
To go in camera.
Correct.
Okay. We don't need to go in camera, but fine.
Well, I'm making a motion.
You think you need to.
Defeat it.
Has it been seconded, Mike?
Not yet.
I second it.
It's been seconded. Discussion?
Discussion.
I made the motion. I believe, based on the conversation, it was done in confidence at that particular point in time to get this information. I needed clarification on the motion made, which was to actually condense the whole thing to bare motions and eliminate the other stuff, and we will do that ourselves. That was the motion. Upon advice from a consultant, I was told that's a very bad move. Do not do this. You would have to do it with legal consultation and overview. So the original motion that we do ourselves was the motion.
First of all, that's not the advice that was given by the consultant. We do not need to have a lawyer. We need to follow the FIPA legislation. That's what we need to do. There's no question that minutes need to be disclosed to the public. And there's, all of that is laid out very clearly in the FIPA regulations. So, first of all, there's no third-party information being requested to be released. It's only the minutes of the board. All of that we are open to the public. We have to be transparent and accountable. there was never any request to release third-party information. It's only the existing, which already exist, minutes of the board. And we legally have to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we started this process in camera, and nobody, that wasn't a contentious issue when we started it, and I think it was the wisest thing that we could have done, because there was a lot of contentious issues in those minutes. As I read them, a lot of things, our minutes used to be 6 or 8 pages long. It was every part of every discussion, and there was some things brought up in there that have changed dramatically in today's world, and other people's names involved that would probably need to have some input from them or lawyers. So I don't understand, first off, why anybody's challenging this. It seems like a grandstanding move. We started in camera, and we have new information that we need to talk about our motion that was made in camera. So I see no reason why we would not go back in camera.
We are in camera.
No,
No, we're not.
this is the
Oh
public.
Okay,
my
let's-
God.
Let's follow the protocol of the
It's
meeting.
being videoed.
Well, even if we're in camera.
Let's,
Stop pounding.
stop this.
Excuse me. This is outrageous.
oh, you're right, it's outrageous.
Stop pounding the table.
We took training on how to have a meeting, and you can't follow
Okay.
it.
Inappropriate.
Everybody
manner.
stand down for a second.
Jeez.
Trustee Haroldson, you have the next voice.
Mr. Chairman, I think what we're doing now is we're voting on to go into in-camera.
Yeah, and I'm fine with going into.
I suggest that we vote, that we go in camera and then carry on with the conversation.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree, but it's going to be audio taped.
No, it will be.
Yes, it will be, and they need to be. Yes, it will be. I will
Let's
not
have a
remain.
vote.
I will not remain in
Okay.
camera without it being
Trustee
recorded.
Monroe.
No, 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 no.
it's-
I'm sorry, I will
Trustee
not.
Monroe
I will
has
not.
got a chance to
I will
speak.
not after what happened at the last meeting with poundings of tables, swear word. I will not sit at this board table
If you'll stand
without it
down,
being
allow
recorded.
Trustee Monroe to speak. Trustee Monroe.
So, I am a proponent of transparency, as you all know. I also recognize that we have been given guidance from a consultant who has not given his permission for this to be information to be used outside of the in-camera process. I would find it, I think, in the spirit of what we've been given, if we could not refer to the consultant's name, and we could not refer to the topics within the minutes that we are discussing, and to discuss solely the consultant's feedback with respect to the process, not the content, because that's what this is about. It's about the process, not the content.
That's right.
That we had recommended proceeding with, and what we are hearing in the guidance we've been given is that our process that we were recommending in good faith with respect to transparency is perhaps not an effective way for us to proceed. So I'm of two minds on this, in that if we could be respectful to the consultant and respectful to the third parties that are mentioned in meetings, I could see us trying to do this without going in camera.
Mhm.
Given the emotion attached to this, I wonder if that's possible, and therefore being in camera might be the right solution as long as the motions and results of that are transparent outside of that.
I am
Thank
not
you.
prepared to
Thank you,
state.
Ian.
I am
And
not
we're now at
prepared.
this point
Excuse
to
me.
vote on the motion. We've all had our chance to speak.
No, I would like to speak to what Ian said, which is
We're
I'm
not
not
doing that.
prepared to remain here if we decide to go in camera without it being recorded. I do not feel safe in doing so based on the last meeting, which was not recorded. So I
Bylaw
just
two-
wanna- I just-
Bylaw
I agree.
263
I agree
Meetings or
with,
parts of meetings from which the press and or public are excluded may not be filmed or recorded. That is our bylaw.
we can record it. We're supposed to have
No.
audio recording for our own information.
We are not
Other
allowed
people-
to
No, that is
record. Bylaw
absolutely so wrong. That
263,
is, we are
item number 57.
We have a recording of meetings bylaw, which we are supposed to record our own meetings. That's why we have the little audio recorder to do the minutes. Oh my God, I can't believe this.
It's bylaw 263.
No, we're supposed to record our own meetings. All of the, Ted, you were the chair. All of the meetings that we had that were in camera were recorded on that little audio recorder. That's what I need to have happen in order to feel safe. We don't have to have it video recorded, but we are supposed to record all meetings so that the minutes can be done properly. This is a complete misinterpretation of the meetings bylaw. It's a reference to recording from other people.
No,
Yes, it
No, it
is.
isn't.
Yes, it is. There's a separate video recording section. Oh my God, this is
Obviously,
so
Suzanne doesn't want to
ridiculous.
partake in this meeting,
No.
so let's move forward.
I am not prepared to go and meet in camera without a recording. I do not feel safe.
Well, if you don't feel safe, then why don't you feel safe? Say specifically
For
why
the
you don't
reasons
feel
of
safe.
swearing at me, pounding tables, getting up, that happened at the last in-camera meeting, and I am not prepared to sit through that anymore. We
Mr.
have
Chair.
important business to discuss. Everybody has a right to speak. Ian has made a very good suggestion on a way for us to continue without going in camera,
Mr. Chairman.
and we could.
Mr. Chairman, I was a past chairman, but now you are the chairman, it's your decision. And my feeling is that we should be able to sit down here as adults, including Ian, who's at home, and be able to have a discussion without swearing. And we do not have to have recording or a camera operating during that time. And I, for one, am not a person to swear. And I try my best not to. And my feelings towards each trustee is I am glad they're here with me today. So may we please go into in camera. Thank you.
Everyone expressed, I have the advantage of being at my computer and being able to read bylaw 263, and I probably should read 270 as well, just to make sure it doesn't put it in. But there's a section called audio-visual recording under section 57, which does say, as Chairman Vandenberg has said, which is meetings or parts of meetings from which the press and or public are excluded may not be filmed or recorded.
Excuse me, and oh God, hi, you do need to read 270. The recording
This
was
meeting
never
is
done
starting
for
to get a
public.
little out of
Okay,
shape.
I'm sorry, I need to leave.
okay.
This
Okay.
is unacceptable. This is not due process, not democracy.
Trustee Monroe, would you kindly review bylaw 270 at this particular point? It is an
The
amendment
recording
to
is
bylaw
for
263.
is for Union Bay for its own use to make sure that minutes are accurate.
I am reading 270 right now, and there is a section in 270 about audio-visual recording as long as you give me a second. It continues to say, I will read it in its entirety so there's no interpretation from me. So, it says it will replace the sections 54 to 64 on audiovisual recording in its entirety, replace it with 54. Public meetings of the board will only be recorded by the Union Bay Improvement District and posted on the website. Point 55, meetings or parts of meetings from which the press and or public are excluded may not be filmed or recorded.
Thank you.
56, there shall be no recording of the gallery or individual members of the public, particularly minors. 57, whenever and wherever possible, requests made by an individual member of the public who is not a trustee, not to be recorded, should be directed to the chair in advance of the meeting. The chair will communicate such requests to the administrator or his delegate accordingly. Where advance request is not possible, authority will reside with the chair.
Thank you. So,
So it still says, point 55, meetings are parts of meetings from which the president or public are excluded may not be altered.
I concur.
I'd just like to clarify, we're still being videotaped
Yes.
here, that our last meeting, our Cal meeting, was horrible, to say the least. It's hard to believe at this point, after we have several experienced trustees that have taken training many times, that we can't follow the proper protocol in a meeting. And that's why the meeting was disruptive, and there was only one person creating that disruption and not following the process. And that's what happened. So,
At this point, I believe we should vote on whether we go into camera.
okay,
Motion,
yeah, we got the motion, so.
second, go.